Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Cathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
Hey, Laura, how you going?
I am good, thank you, Cathy. How are you? And please tell me, who is on The Change today?
I'm pretty good, and we have the incredible Cath Taylor. She is probably best known for being hailed as the winning parent on Channel 9 Season 2 of Parental Guidance, where she won the hearts of Australian families with her honest parenting style. And if you haven't seen her there, you may know her from her TikTok page called @FlyYouFull8, where she has almost 200,000 followers. 200,000 followers. And she constantly has people in stitches with her very relatable posts about parenting, perimenopause, and celebrating the highs and lows of her day-to-day life. Cath is also an educator for the Department of Education. She runs a tutoring business. She's a mum. She's a full-time train wreck. Well, that's a self-professed train wreck. And she's not afraid to vocalise that she really has no idea what she's doing. Her partner Storm would wholeheartedly agree with this, but cautiously, because he is living with this wild and crazy woman during her perimenopause nightmare, and he openly admits he's a little scared. So let's welcome Cath.
Thanks for joining us, Cath. This is very exciting. Thank you.
I'm extremely excited to do this. I've been on my little toes all morning waiting to get into it.
Oh, we love a good chat. We're going to start because you're possibly known to our audience as the winner of Best Parenting Style on Channel 9's Parental Guidance in 2023.
Yes.
So I wonder if you tell us a bit about that experience, what you learned about yourself and your kids, and whether or not you would do it again looking back now.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I didn't apply for that show.
Oh.
I know. I had them approach me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, it was just so hit and miss. My TikTok page, sometimes I'll wake up and there'll be, literally 100 messages on there or little comments. And it's very, very hard being a working busy mum to look over all of those things. Sometimes I don't look for days, and I just happened to wake up, start scrolling, and I saw this beautiful little line, "We'd love you to be on a TV show. Could you please contact me back? I've only got one option to send you a message,
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, is this another crock of crap? So I got sucked into it, and I emailed the lovely lady who was a Sydney lady. We started chatting, and she said, we watched a parenting style. You just take the mickey out of yourself constantly. Mm-hmm. You seem very raw and unplugged. Could you apply for this show? And I thought, yeah. You know what? Why not? So I sat down with the children after I realised that this was a legitimate thing. I sat down with the children. We'd never watched season 1 before. And I said to Billy, you go and take the laptop in your room, go and watch episodes 1 and 2. Said to my son, Jesse, you go in there and watch 3 and 4 and I'll watch 5 and 6 and then we'll reunite. And just the first initial gut feeling is if we'll do it or not. And we all just came out and went, yeah, let's do it.
Wow. Oh. Yeah, because it's a show that you need the buy-in from the kids. It's not something, you're on it, right? Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's just, my whole personality under scrutiny. But for them, it's, they've got school. Is it going to be embarrassing for them? Do they feel like they're going to be under too much pressure? Because really, at the end of the day, the challenges are for the children. But then they base it on your parenting and the way you've gone about your parenting to see how successful they are in those challenges. Not necessarily if they did them and completed them, but how that we navigated around the experiences.
And you obviously navigated around them very well because you won.
I know.
And was obviously some beautiful moments in there for you. You're a single mum,
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. And,
not now. Well, at the time of the show and for 9 years, I had been.
Yes.
And oddly enough, now I'm back together with their dad. So that's kind of exciting.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So for a really long time, but we were very, very much separated during that time and leading up to that. There was a lot of positive feedback from parents all around Australia that were just fantastic and really grateful for the opportunity for them to sort of, open up conversations in their own family home about certain things that we, like my daughter was thinking, oh, my God, I just did that on TV and I gave out my street address to a total stranger. And, and I said to her, honey, if this just starts one conversation in one family and helps one little person or teenage person navigate around something that could ultimately have been a really bad outcome, then we're winning here.
Yeah.
And once I put it to them like that, they were like, yeah, this is okay.
Yeah. And you're right. I know, totally different to parenting, but I write about my mental health and I take the same approach. It's really hard and vulnerable to be put yourself out there like that. But if it makes a difference for one person who reads something that I wrote and they go, oh, I feel seen, or I'm not alone, or it helps someone else have that conversation with a loved one, or like your daughter, oh, crap, that was a bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
But maybe it helps one other family have that conversation to say, don't do that. It's not a great idea. And these are why it's not a great idea. So, yeah.
In your case, I agree with that. Not only if you reach one person that's going through some mental health issues, but let's just say on the flip side of that, someone's listening that's got a friend with mental health issues, and that just gives them the boost to then go, I'm going to check in on my friend today.
Yeah.
So it really covers a whole lot of bases. And I had parents come to me, and this is no word of a lie, I had parents come to me hugging me and crying with extreme gratitude. And then on the flip side of that, I had a lady hit me in the head with a French stick at Foodland. So
why? What was that? Why?
Yeah, I feel like we need to know more about that.
I don't know. This whole perimenopause journey's left me extremely unplugged. Once upon a time, I probably would have gone, oh, my God, did that just happen, and just die and not go outside for 2 days. But at that time I thought, sweetheart, do you really want to go there right now? Because I'm buckling up. I'm ready for this conversation. I find a lot of people with anger, outbursts don't really know how to converse, and I'm actually really good. Well, normally, up until Peri, I stumble with my words a bit. But as a general rule, I love a good chat. Let's get down to the crux of this. But she wasn't happy with the fact that I don't know if you've seen all of the episodes, but there was a particular episode where my son was rolling down a hill and he wouldn't stop doing it. And I put my hand up in the end and I said, stop. That is enough. And I was very firm, but I'm all about firm, fair, short and sweet, quick reset. And she didn't like the way I spoke to my children. And so she literally was at the bread area with me. I'm just trying to get my whole meal sliced. And she picked up that I don't even know if she paid for, and literally whacked me over the head with it and said to me, people like you shouldn't be mothers because of the way you spoke to your child. And I thought, yeah. And I said to her, well, people like you probably shouldn't be let out in the supermarket, to be perfectly honest.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Wow.
I guess that's the reach of being on a Channel 9, TV show. People recognise you.
What I did love about that was, and I didn't really understand it at the time, but I really loved the fact that every single person that I worked with Channel 9 was absolutely so professional and kind, and it just made me realise this is not your first rodeo. You realise exactly the sort of backlash that we all could, as all the families that went on there. But they turn off your socials for a period of time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you filter all the comments that you would otherwise sit in a corner in the fetal position and cry when you're reading, and they just switched it all off. They take all your passwords, and for the airing of the duration of the show, you don't have access to them. And that's a real blessing in disguise, I think.
Yeah.
That's very smart.
I have a tiny connection with the show in that Justin was my
That's Dr. Justin Coulson.
Yeah, Dr. Justin Coulson. He was I was doing some psych units at uni of UOW, and he was my tutor when he had his last child, his sixth daughter. our twins had just finished using their car seats, and we were getting rid of one, and I gave him one of the car seats for their last daughter because they just were like, crap.
Another one.
Another one. I was like, you have it. Like, we don't need it, you know. Lovely guy. So, yeah, and he's
just all full of knowledge, and you really felt you were around a powerhouse of energy, and we all would sit there in the, you know, in the break rooms because they were very long days of filming, like 14-hour days of filming, and we would sit there and pick his brain. You know, being the single mum, I'm like, I've got to talk to him now because this would cost me like $1,000 an hour. Yeah. So we would pick his brain, and he just had an answer for everything, but a really sensible, structured, knowledgeable answer.
And thoughtful, you know, like, and I mean, sometimes he knows you don't necessarily agree with him, but he's thoughtful about it as well. Like, he'll approach that with it, you know. And I can remember a time when our son, when I was at uni, he was like on the PlayStation all the bloody time, and I was just like, and he's like, well, that's his playground. Yeah. Like, you need to go to his playground. Like, why are you asking him to not play in his playground? Oh, okay. I hadn't thought about that.
I hadn't thought about it, Justin, but he's been on for 6 hours.
Yeah. Even the playground outdoors would be excessive, wouldn't it?
But it was just the way he got me to reframe my thinking around that, which I really enjoyed, you know. But yeah, he's nice guy. Would you do it again, do you reckon?
I did actually. I went on Justin's podcast shortly after the show, and I said to him, I have an idea. I said, I think that if they were to do another season of it, then I think on the 4th season you should get the winner of every single one, and then put them on the 4th season, and then give their children. I said that would be really quite a great idea. In which case, if they were to do something like that, you know, I would absolutely do it again. I was so proud of my children. I was so proud of how far they came. I was so proud of how they interacted with all of the crew, because there's like 10 people in your house. I was so proud of just the excitement. You know, I saw this level of excitement that I would never have otherwise seen. We got to fly around to different places that I couldn't really necessarily afford to do, being a single parent. So, yes, I would do it again, but I was also pretty proud of myself because it was a very humbling experience, and I did a lot of personal growth throughout that time. And little did I know they were going to be great, fantastic life lessons. Just watching yourself speak to your kids, and, you know, I mean, I would casually throw around, you know, your buffet and stuff like that in a very playful manner, but then watching things like that back, you think, well, gee, you know what, that actually sounds a little bit harsh, even though I know I'm only joking. Maybe I need to, you know, swap a bit of that dialogue around, you know, like just to, I found it really humbling because I had no idea that I was going to win. I didn't even know that there was a winner at the end of it.
Interesting.
So do they follow you, like they follow you around every day, all day for like a couple of weeks? Is that how?
What they do is they come to your home. You are pretty much blocked into about 3 weeks worth of filming. You might have 4 days in a row where it's really quite like a lot, and they've got all the challenges and things like that. Then they'll give you a week off. They're very great with the fact that the kids have got to go to school and you've got to go to work. And so then they would just film you doing bits and pieces. Then there might be 3 days off, and then they might come and do a massive photo shoot. Again, you know, 11 hours. So they're very, very aware of the kids. And then all of a sudden you're suddenly going to Sydney to do 4 days worth of filming with the kids and stuff. So that was exciting. But the last bit when you're in the studio, that was, I would say, the emotionally taxing bit, because they like to surprise you with little things that you didn't know were taking place when they were taking place. So that 7 days, some of the families chose to have a nanny with them because the kids weren't with you. I left mine at home because I had friends to do that. But that 7 days was pretty intense. It was 14 hours a day for 7 days.
Oh, wow. That's so intense.
So essentially, they do a lot of filming and they chunk it down into like tiny bite-sized bits. So like you say, you know, you can throw out a line like buffet, and of course that's the bit that they stick to. Like it, and I always think back to, you know, Jessica Simpson. And you know, remember she was on that Nick Loves Jessica or whatever.
The tuna thing.
The tuna. And she was like, chicken. Oh, tunas, it tastes like chicken of the sea, right? Like And she sounded like such a bimbo. But when you think about that, they would have cameras in their house 24/7, and they cut that back to a half an hour once a week show.
Yeah.
So of course they're going to find the throwaway line. And I remember at the time, I jumped in my car and drove off, and I had thongs on, and I got to the shops, and I only had one thong on my foot. But I walked out of my house, jumped in the car, and drove away. The other foot was in the other foot.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you had your foot. Yeah.
No, the other shoe, my thong had fallen off as I got in the car, and I drove to the shop and didn't realise I didn't have it on my foot. So
but everyone does it. Everyone does silly stuff all the time. It's just when it's being filmed and you don't have any control over what is being shown. And of course, and then people on the internet are very quick to judge what you might say in a very brief second, because we're all human and we say things occasionally that we don't.
Oh, 100%. And you know, like we're mic'd all the time.
Oh, wow.
All the time. So, you know, and you're conscious of that. At night, you're not conscious of it. So you're rabbiting on and you're in the toilet, you know. And then you remember, and so all of a sudden, you know, I would literally go, because I'm a very anxious person, believe it or not, and I would go and lay in bed at night and then go, I just remember having an argument with one of the kids about something ridiculous, muesli bars or whatever, and then I would, you know, contact the producer, Olivia, who I just adore, and I'd go, oh, my God, please tell me that bit's not, and she's like, Kat, we're not here to represent you in bad light. We're here just to show the rawness and the realness of parenting. This is a very child-friendly show. You know, you'd have psychologists and things at hand all the time in case you needed to chat about something. You know, so yeah, they're very mindful. But yeah, it is a bit of a scary thing being mic'd all the time and knowing that no matter what you're doing and what you're saying, you never know in that 7 days of filming back in the studio right towards the end where you're all glammed up and looking nothing like you normally look. That's when they pop stuff up on the screen and you go, oh, my gosh, I forgot about that. Or, oh, my gosh, you got that.
Wow, that moment. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. That's filmed for posterity. Yay.
I think it's hard to be really honest about parenting. So I think it's great, you know, you as the honest parent on the show, people related to it very, very well. I was working at Mamma Mia as a parenting writer at the time, and I remember doing some stories around the show and the different styles of parenting, and I think that honest. It's hard to see. It's hard to represent, and so I think people appreciate it when they see it and can relate in many ways. Even the buffet. Gosh, haven't I said that?
You've got that, Laura. Because what I actually thought to myself was, I wanted. They said, what can we put you under? We need to find you a label as such. And I was like, you know, Gen X parenting, because there is so many of us out there that are just no frills. No fluff, straight to the point, set you up
by the seat of our pants, right?
Right, and they're like, oh, well, that's not really a parenting style. I thought, yeah, it is. But anyway, with the honest one, I thought, no, that actually fits because it is really unplugged, you know?
Yeah, unplugged, that's right. It's hard to see sometimes on the internet. I mean, obviously, in your Instagram, you can see it, and in the way that you talk about menopause and the truth, you know, it's what people are really looking for, I think, in and amongst all the advice. You just want to see it.
Yeah, no, right. I hadn't seen you on parental guidance because, like, I'm past that point of parenting. My son will be 23 this year, and my twins will be turned to 19. So I actually connected with you through your no nonsense approach to menopause, and on Instagram, like your menopause page that you have on Instagram. And so I guess, you know, I mean, obviously we've covered it with your parenting style. You're very open. So what inspired you to decide that you wanted to talk so openly and fabulously about the fuckery that is perimenopause or menopause?
Thank God.
No, you can swear. It's fine. We do put an explicit warning, but we can swear.
So on my TikTok page, which is reasonably enormous,
it is.
I was having a really bad day one day, and I thought, you know what? I hate myself. Oh. Yeah, but this is this is a reality of it. I thought, I hate myself today. I'm going to get rid of all of my socials. Who am I standing up here promoting all this wonderful laughing, giving everyone, an opportunity to laugh and be relatable and stuff like that when I'm not really being as unplugged as I'm feeling right now. So I put one post up on my TikTok page, which is FlyYouFull8, and I said, where are the safe spaces for fucking women? How many? I've got 73. I looked through all my analytics and I thought, I've got 73% of my followers are women, and I cannot be the only one that is feeling like ballsack right now. And I'm forgetting who I am. I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't know how to conduct a relationship at the moment. My parenting is all over the place. I'm forgetting what I'm doing. I feel incompetent, all of the lovely, it's like the antipasto platter of death, right? And so I posted this and I said, I'm going to start a page on Insta, and I kept saying IG or IG, and then all of a sudden I went over and I opened this page up, and then I had 100 followers, and then I had 150 followers, and I had 200 followers, and it was just going on and on and on and on, and I thought, wow. I did a short video on myself and just sort of said, this is me. And if anyone else is feeling like this, then please jump onto this safe space. And I filter every single person that goes on, because I want people to feel safe and loved and cared about and valued and seen. And it just went from there.
And so how long ago was that?
That was about 8 weeks ago.
Oh, really? Only that long?
Wow.
Maybe about 8 weeks ago. And I just thought to myself, there's got to be, I know that there's some, some amazing Dr. Marie Claire, there's some wonderful people that I watch, and I just thought, but where is it in Australia?
Yeah.
Where are these things? And then I just thought, I'm going to have to hashtag the crap out of this, because I don't even know where to start. Plus you, so that was fabulous. And since then, the amount of women that are on there that are communicating and that have found each other, I feel so grateful for that space.
Yeah. Yeah, 8 weeks ago you were not feeling great. And how are you feeling, I guess, today, like on that journey? I know that it's an up and down.
So for about 9 months I definitely have been going through this peri journey. I felt like I was forgetting what I was doing, I forgot what I was talking about when I was talking. And it was just getting a bit beyond that. I'll put the keys in the fridge. It was beyond that. That's where you find that little bit of humour in it. Like, oh, goodness me, like my partner Storm, he'd say, hey, babe, you've just put the yogurt in the cupboard, like just those little things. But it was beyond that. It was causing me extreme pain inside my head. Yeah, so this was the clincher for me. One of my best friends has a little Dr. Seuss book, and she gave it to me for her son, who's turning 18 soon, and she said for years and years and years this has been his favourite book as a little one. I've gotten so many people to sign it that have been a part of our family's journey for the 18 years of his life since I got it for him when he was 2. I looked through the book. It had parents of hers that have since passed. It had grandparents signing beautiful messages. It had just an abundance of family and beautiful, wonderful, warm messages, and she gave it to me. And instead of, doing the normal thing, which normal women I'm sure would do, and that is writing it right there and then pass it straight back to her, I did not. I put it in a cupboard. I then moved house. And then at 11 o'clock at night, while we were all watching TV, I just out of nowhere went, where's that Dr. Seuss book? And that then turned into an actual mental breakdown. I had my 2 kids, my partner, we were driving around to the old house looking through the rubbish at 11:30 at night. We were going to his house because I'd stored things there. We were unpacking boxes. I was screaming and crying uncontrollably, but manic. You know that manic?
Yeah.
Almost like you've lost a child. It was manic, and no one could calm me down. There was no calming me down, but lucky I've got the support of this wonderful man in my life that just went with everything that I suggested, even though they were erratic thoughts that were not even being completed before another one was coming. And I punched myself in the head.
Oh,
Okay.
Gosh.
But this is the reality of it, right? I hated myself in that moment so much. I thought, what is happening to you? Anyway, long story short, we found the book. It was in a box, just, but it was like 2 hours of looking, 2 hours of tears. I was so exhausted at the end of it. Now, when I say I punched myself in the head, I literally I was so angry, and I just, that real frustration. And it was the next day, I was exhausted. I was so totally exhausted, I couldn't get out of bed. And then Storm came in and he said, we need to do something about this for you. He, it's all the way you approach it, right? He didn't say, you're fucked in the head. Like, you got to get it from yourself. He said, we need to do something about it. What do you need from me? And we then went through the naturopaths, the doctors, the blood, and we discovered that I'm right in the thick of perimenopause. And I said, I can't live like this, because actually, it was kind of beautiful at the same time. If you can I'm trying to find the good in something, because I said to Storm, what you saw last night is pretty much what goes on in my head about 16 hours a day. And he went, wow. And he said, your facade game is so elite. And I said, yeah, but the cracks are starting to show. And so then we went through, the train wreck of hundreds and hundreds of dollars of seeing different people. I've tried creams and lotions and tablets under the tongue and CBD oil and nothing's worked. Our work, I think it's a bit more placebo, nothing's worked. And then I've just Monday of last week found the doctor. She is Dr. Alison Clark. She's in Adelaide. And now I've started a new course of action, and I've got everything crossed that, that's going to take place. But I thought to myself, God, there's so many women. There's so many women in this boat, and there's so many women doing it alone.
We don't talk about how fucking hard it is.
Yeah.
So, Kat, how old are you? Sorry.
I just turned 50.
Right, that's right. You're a little bit older than Laura, but a bit younger than me. Yep. So I went into menopause when I was had a hysterectomy in 2017. So I was 46. So, and I had everything, ovaries, the whole lot. So overnight, basically, menopause. And you're not really prepared for that, as much as you think you are. And, it was something that I'd kind of been preparing for my entire life, really. My mum had a hysterectomy at 24 or 25 or something, because she had endometriosis, and that's just how it was treated, that's just what they did. They just took her uterus, but she kept her ovaries. But so for me, the hysterectomy was something I just knew was was sort of something that I expected would happen. And anyway, I'd sort of been begging for it for years. And then when it happened, and then I woke up after the surgery, and it had never occurred to me, strangely, weirdly, but this is your brain, right? It had never occurred to me until the moment when I woke up after the surgery on the maternity ward, because it's an OB procedure, and I heard a crying baby, that I was never going to be able to have a baby again. I was like, and it was like the emotion from that. I mean, obviously I understood that, right? I got it. I understood. No uterus, no periods, no ovaries, no babies. But hearing the baby cry
triggered.
Was a totally different thing. And I said to my nurse, I pressed the buzzer and I said, you have to get me out of here. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, I can't be on this ward and hear crying babies. I'm sorry, but you have to move me. And she said, oh, it's the most convenient place for the doctor. And I said, well, quite frankly, it doesn't work for me. And I will speak to David when he walks in to check on me. And if you won't move me, he will. And she was like, oh, you think he will? And I was like, I know he will, because he delivered our twins, and we, I'd known him for years. And sure enough, they didn't move me. He walked in. I was crying. So what's the matter? And I'm like, David, I'm hearing all these babies crying. It never occurred to me. And he's like, oh, Cath, of course it occurred to you. You knew that. And I'm like, yeah, I knew it. But knowing it and knowing it is a very different thing. And So, yeah, I was moved and, it was fine. But then all the hormones and all the shifts and all the changes, that I wasn't prepared for either. Like, I don't know. I just thought, I'm not going to have the pain from the endo. Like, that was my end game, was like no more pain and no more heavy period to the point where I couldn't leave the bloody house. Like, I couldn't leave the house when I had my period, and they were coming every 2 weeks, and my iron levels were so bad. So I was like, it was a medical condition for me having my period, and so that's all I thought about. I didn't think about the post, like what happens after that and why the hormones are important and all the rest of it. And so, like I'm following like all the women, Ginny Mansberg, Mary Claire, Louise Newsom in the UK. There's a whole lot of doctors now, but it's only honestly, I reckon only in the last maximum 2 years, but more likely 6 months that it's flooding my Instagram feeds where they're actually starting to talk about what the impact of these hormones are on our bodies. Like, not just like menopause is not just hot flushes, which is kind of what we thought. Well, certainly what I thought, if you didn't have a hot flush, you weren't going through menopause, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Another reason why I did that page was because you got me thinking now. I needed to find a way that I could go through it. Because I was very internalized and I was just suffering mentally and really loathing myself. I mean, the self-worth was just so ridiculously minimal. And I thought, like, on my TikTok page, I always bring humour to parenting, right? I always bring humour to parenting. I've got thousands and thousands of people that go, oh, my God, I thought I was the only one. Oh, are you watching me through my window? I feel so sad. And it's very relatable, and I do that. So how can I – and that makes me feel better about my little boo-boos as a parent. I thought, how can I get through this menopause journey without going completely insane? I'll do the same. I'll switch it over and I'll do the same, and that's why I post some funny things sometimes, and, because I thought I've got to find some humour in it. Because it is so much bigger than I thought. We've always been told, like you said, hot flushes. Actually, that was pretty much all I knew about it. Hot flushes. You didn't get your period anymore.
Yeah, me too, 100%. That's all I knew.
Complete rewiring, and that is exactly what's happening. And I never had any idea. And I said to Storm, no wonder I'm going crazy. Our brains are completely rewiring to set us up for how we're going to navigate the last 30, 40 years of our lives.
Exactly the same way as like puberty happens, right? Like the rewiring that happens with children when they go from being little people to mid people, in between people, like adults. That rewiring of the brain. But what I'm also understanding is the protective mechanisms that our hormones play in our bodies. Like, I didn't understand until recently, and I can only speak for myself, that how much estrogen plays a part in every single cell in our body. So, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago, I was put on statins for high cholesterol and blood pressure medication because I was on SSRIs or SNRIs. I was on all of them, like all the different antidepressants. They never worked. But that's because I had ADHD, not because the antidepressants didn't work, but they didn't work because they weren't treating the right thing. So that's why. But I was put on the blood pressure medication and statins because my blood pressure went up and my cholesterol went up. I am now not on medication for my blood pressure or my cholesterol, but I am on high doses of HRT.
Right.
Because it is protecting and I've seen, and that's just me. Like, I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice at all for anybody, and I've seen some of the doctors, and there's a Melbourne-based doctor, and I think think she's called the Menopause Specialist.
Right.
She was from the UK. She moved to Melbourne, and she's doing a series of like weekly or daily FAQs about what estrogen does in our bodies. We'll share her page in our show notes. The protective mechanism that estrogen plays in every single cell in our body is phenomenal. And I understand that a lot of people can't take HRT, are scared of taking HRT because of all of the studies or the research, but that has been kind of, I guess, a little bit. But you've also got to do what works for you. And for me, I don't know about in either of you, but for me, I had the perfect storm of menopause and mental health issues and then ADHD, late diagnosis ADHD, that all collided together to just create an absolute clusterfuck in my head.
And that's the thing, because I've got ADHD too, shock, but I've also got anxiety. And when I went and saw Dr. Clark the other day, the first thing she said was, you've unfortunately got the mixed bag. And she said, and all of these things don't work well together. She said it's like fireworks being set off in a bag, you know. And so, yeah, it can be a little bit harder. But I liken, you know, the HRT thing, I look at it now like breastfeeding. You know, when you can't breastfeed or you don't want to breastfeed or you have tried your guts out and it just isn't working for you, and there's a lot of anguish for first-time mums especially. You know, should I breastfeed? What if I can't? I'm not doing it successfully. My child's not benefiting from it because they're not getting enough, all those sorts of things. And then you just don't, you know, it's a big strain for a lot of people to admit, and it shouldn't be because it's very freaking prehistoric, but to go on formula. But it's the same with HRT. You know, people try to avoid it. They don't want the formula. They don't want the HRT. They want to go natural. They want to do everything they can. And then they just realise, you know what, I can't. I've got to do it. So I kind of liken it to that because it's a really an internal battle more so than an external battle.
Yeah, it's totally independent. You know, it's individual, isn't it? I suppose, and
that's right.
How you're coping and what's your doctor kind of? If you don't mind, you don't have to
no
details. But are you going down a path of HRT for yourself?
Yeah, so I tried everything natural that I could possibly get. I mean, I was basically licking wild yam cream out of a jar. That wasn't weird. So I've just started. I'm on my 4th day of estrogel now. Now I know a lot of women. If you do not have a uterus, you need to take progesterone tablets in that or some form as well. But because I've got a Mirena in, I'm getting that slow dose progesterone anyway. So I take the estrogel 2 pumps in the morning. I've got high hopes for it because I did get my bloods back. And Alison rang me, which was great, and she said, your testosterone and your estrogen are like on the bottom of your shoe.
Oh, wow.
She said that's so low. And I was really grateful that Storm was sitting next to me because I just had her on loudspeaker because he's very naturopath-minded. And he was like, oh, that explains so much. That explains so much to me. Now we know what we're working with. So I'm hopeful for this estrogel. Libido is gone. What is even that? I remember I enjoyed sex once. I used to think, I don't know what happened there. Really good time for Storm for us to get back together, really, isn't it?
Well, you know, he's seen you at your worst and he's supporting you through that. So that's, I mean, my husband was a great guy and supported me through mine too. So, you know.
We're doing this estrogel thing for 6 weeks and then I've got an appointment to see her. And if certain things don't start marrying up, if my brain fog and my mood and everything is still not quite a little bit less stabilised than what we'd like, then we're going to start taking a low-dose testosterone as well, which I'm equally as excited about because she explained everything thoroughly and she didn't make me feel like any of my questions were silly.
That's important. I feel like that can be an experience lots of women have when they go to see their GPs or and I'm married to one, so I think it's okay for me to say that. But, you know, like I think it's very common for people to feel silly at the GP or at the doctors and feel like they're not being listened to, and that's why, of course, you want to seek other advice and input from other holistic health providers. I totally get it. Yeah. And
Laura, do you, I mean, like, I don't know, but do you ever find, well, you probably chat to your husband about all of those things, but
I do.
You still, can they treat you or do you have to
No. I mean, he can give me his thoughts, of course, they're free, which is always nice, but
they're free.
They're free. And I'll take them on board. But I do have my own GP,
of course,
who's a woman. Yeah. So, and I think that he's not a woman, and I think sometimes it is just better to have a female, especially if they've been through it. That's even better. It's a bit like when you have kids. But it's not always the way.
How many times have you come out of a doctor? You've gone in there on a mission. You know what you want to talk about and do, and you think, because no one knows us better than us, right? But then you come out and you think, what even was that? I didn't get what I needed, and now I just actually need a second opinion because I don't feel validated there.
Yeah.
So
that's okay. Yeah.
I do like my approach to that, because I did go in and I did say to this doctor, I have no time, nor energy, nor brain capacity for bullshit. I said, this is I'm going to just give it to you hard. Like, this is what's going on. And paced a little bit and felt safe in there. So that was, and it didn't cost me a fortune.
Yeah.
Another thing, she was like $147 to see her. And by the time I'd finished at the pharmacy, the compound pharmacy, a $200 round visit. Now, to me, after spending $500 at the naturopath, $600 on all the stuff that he said I should be taking, which she took me straight off, side note, and another doctor, because I needed to see the certain doctor to get the CBD, or because no one seems to want to be doing that. Like, it just cost a fortune, and I felt like I had my bloods done, I had this appointment, I had a follow-up, all in one snapshot of a visit with this woman. And then I came home and did what everybody else does. If you've got a good page, and that's what I love about this menopause page, I think you might have seen that I put a picture of the Easter gel and said anyone, and then I had like 6 or 7 women that I had very lengthy, beautiful women conversations with about their experiences and how it's worked for them and how long it took for it to work for them, and if it didn't work, it was great.
Yeah.
Standing together and supporting each other that otherwise wouldn't have met.
Yeah, fantastic. That's the beauty of social media. For all the downsides, there are some good.
Yes.
You're working for the Department of Education. You've obviously been on TV. You've done that. You can tick that box. You're smashing on social media. But are there any changes, big or small, that you still would like to make in your life?
Yeah, look, I've been leaning toward, I do tutoring, which I love. I absolutely love one-on-one work with kids. I'm very relationship-based. I don't want to say I like to see a kid that's struggling benefit from my space and time. I have a really goofy approach to learning. It's all very unplugged. It's all very, real.
Do you teach little kids or big kids?
I prefer big kids if I can, because I love having I love the fact they get my sarcasm, and I love the fact that they get it. Like the year 6s and that I work with laugh because I come in and I'm a flustered mess, and then some of them call me Peri, as in perimenopause. My son calls me Peri. He said to me the other day something about, is this your lack of estrogen talking right now, Mum? I think so, but
That's cool that they know that.
I love
that's
that.
education. Yeah,
it is very cool. And I love working with children one-on-one, because I just think that they really benefit from it. I'd like to do more of that. I really want to be on radio. That's been a life dream of mine for I don't know how long. Some sort of a morning radio thing. If there's I would love it. I would take the challenge, because I think there's so many people in their cars, that just are dropping their kids off, having a train wreck of a morning, and stuff like that. And I would love to be a part of that, So that's something that I would like to do. I did write a children's book years ago when the twins were born. I'd like to do more of that, but it's just time, it's money. The cost of living has got everyone not being able to, everyone's dreams are being put on the back burner if you're middle class, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is really, really sad.
Yeah, we need that stable income before we can chase the dream.
It's not coming, is it? We're not having it. It's worse.
Hard.
So it's a few. I would like to just keep making people feel loved and validated, and that's kind of where my journey is, I suppose.
Seen and heard. That's what you're doing. Yeah.
And I guess that leads us to our very last question, although we have chatted quite a bit about it, but our podcast is called The Change.
Yes.
In part as a reference to the midlife experience of all women.
Yeah.
Perimenopause, the menopause. So now, I guess, what's your feelings towards it,
I'm glad you asked this. This is good. The level of I feel so confident about saying no now.
Wow.
It's taken me all of my 40s to practice, and then someone said to me one day years ago, every time you're saying yes to somebody else, are you really saying no to yourself, And I thought, yes. And how many times are you saying no to your own family because you're rushing to do things for other people? And I have just mastered the art of saying, no, sorry, I can't do that. No, that's actually not good. Without coming up with an excuse. You'd go, oh, I'm really sorry because I've got this on the times. Now I just go, nah, I can't be fucked. Or, nah, I'm sorry, that's not going to fit in with me. No, I'm really not in the mood for that today. So I love that. My sense of justice is really elite at the moment too. I've got a very strong sense of justice anyway. But now I feel I'm really batting for the underdog because I've found this raw, unplugged version of myself that I'm just starting to embrace a bit of her. And she's always been in there, but now I feel like I've reached that level of my life. Hey, you know what? I'm half of 100. I'll fucking say what I like when I like it. If you can't deal with it, it's always promoting good stuff. But I really feel like I'm embracing that aspect of it. I feel like there's hope. I think that we shouldn't, if we can, not just put the whole perimenopause and menopause journey down to something that's horrific. It is horrific. Yeah. But I feel like there's bits of, if you can tap into the bits of yourself and learn about those bits of yourself that you're starting to like, take that out of it because it can be a splendid stage as well,
It's awesome because that's a great note to end on, surely, that there are hard stuff in there. You've been through some really hard times, but there's hope and there's also good learnings to be had from
There is. You've got to, keep that peripheral vision going all the time. Don't just get tunnel vision and get negative on yourself because it's very easy. The world can be a very negative place anyway. We don't need to be beating ourselves up. So keep that peripheral vision and see the funny things, see the funny side in things and learn to laugh at yourself a little bit because if you do, then someone else will.
Yeah, that's right. And,
that's so true.
It's not all bad. Wow.
Yeah.
What do you say? Where do you go?
Yeah, she's a whirlwind, isn't she? Like such fun, high energy, but also so relatable and raw, which I think is completely why she won that Parental Guidance TV show. That comes across. She is who she is, whether she's on socials, whether she's on TV, whether she's just with her partner and her kids. She's very, very honest and open.
Yeah. And as I said, I hadn't seen her on Parental Guidance because I'm like out of that, right? Like I'm not in that stage. You watched it because you were working as a parenting writer. So you kind of knew of her through that. I only came across her, as she said, like only 8 or whatever weeks ago through her menopause page on Instagram, which we will share with everybody. And she's just incredible. And I just really loved her no-nonsense approach to it. Like she was just like putting it all out there. And I thought, oh, my God, this woman, I relate to what she's saying. Like I love that she's brave and bold and just telling it like it is, but also having a bit of a laugh because, sometimes we do some dumb shit in our lives and like me, getting in the car without a shoe on and not realising that the shoe was in my driveway until I get home. But,
oh gosh, yes, I relate. I'm going to mention this to Kat before. I dropped a whole tray of tomatoes in the supermarket the other day in front of my kids who were mortified because I just dropped it and I had to. Then I sort of picked it up and gave it to a staff and said, "I'm so sorry, I just dropped this," and I was distracted. And then got to the checkout. We're packing our bags. I dropped a whole bottle of tonic water, glass, on the floor. Thankfully, it did not smash all over the floor. I was like, what is this hormone? Can I blame my hormones or is this just, I think dropsies is a thing, isn't it?
Dropsies
just
is
a bit
I think.
distracted and just not really thinking things through properly, trying to hold too much and do too much. Anyways, yes, I'm constantly embarrassing my children by doing stuff like that. And I think that's why we need women like Cath who are also putting it out there, being honest. And, you know, she is funny actually on Instagram. I do enjoy a lot of her funny skits, but just talking to her, then you really get to more of a sense of who she is as a person. And that story about, you know, when she had the real breakdown about the book, I think a lot of women will relate to that. Absolutely. I know I get into those panics where you're just in an anxious spiral and it's awful.
There's nothing that anyone can say to you in that moment that is going to get you out of that until you find what you were looking for, or you don't, or
the person calls, or you think someone's dead, or, you know, whatever just, the frenzy.
And you just get into that kind of, and they're definitely feelings for me. I don't know about others, but I can't remember feeling quite that chaotic when I was little. Like when I say little, in my 20s and 30s, you know, like, so not little, like not as a kid, but youthful. But, you know, like I just felt more in control of those feelings when they happened. But anyway, I think everyone will really love listening to Cath.
She's fantastic. Yeah.
And if you don't, maybe that's on you, not us.
Sorry, but we're not sorry.
Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.